My mom and sister ditched grandma after dad died. Now she's handing me the family empire and they're desperate to get back in. Hi there. I'm a 17-year-old girl, and right now I'm living with my grandma, who's 70, because things at home with my mom, who's 47, and my older sister, who's 19, have gotten really bad. We recently lost my dad. He passed away 6 months ago after fighting osteosarcoma for a long time. His death wasn't a surprise, we knew it was coming, and we tried to prepare ourselves. But let's be real, no amount of preparation makes losing a parent hurt any less. I don't think I'll ever truly be okay with it. I'm trying to push through, but there's this empty space that I don't think will ever be filled. The only thing that brings me a bit of peace is knowing he's no longer in pain. For 4 years, he suffered so much, and now at least he's free from all that. My mom took it really hard at first. She was understandably devastated for the first couple of weeks, but now it seems like she's slowly moving on. Honestly, I'm glad she's finding a way to cope. My sister's handling it in a similar way too. But for me, it's been different. I think I'm the one struggling the most. My dad wasn't just my parent, he was my favorite person in the world. It still feels unreal that he's gone and won't be around for all the milestones ahead. These past 6 months have been rough on me emotionally, but I haven't had the luxury of slowing down. It's my senior year of high school, and I've been busy with college applications and everything else that comes with it. There's just no time to sit around and grieve. I keep telling myself I'll let myself fall apart later once I get accepted into the college my dad always dreamed of me attending. I'm working hard for it, and I've got my fingers crossed. Anyway, this story isn't just about me, it's also about my grandma, so let me get to that part. To give you some background, my dad was incredibly close to his mom, and I've always had a strong bond with her too. Unfortunately, that's not the case with my mom or sister. For reasons I've never been told, my mom and grandma have never really gotten along. And my sister? She's basically a younger version of my mom, so she shares that same attitude and keeps her distance from my grandma too. After the funeral, I stayed in touch with my grandma, but my mom didn't even bother to check on her, not once. It was like she didn't exist anymore. I genuinely hoped losing dad would somehow bring the rest of us closer together, but that didn't happen. If anything, it gave my mom and sister a reason to completely shut my grandma out of their lives. I still don't understand what caused all that resentment. From my perspective, my grandma had always been kind and respectful, even to my mom and sister, despite how cold and dismissive they were toward her. Every time we visited grandma's house, my mom and sister acted so arrogant and uncomfortable, like they didn't want to be there. It created this awkward tension for everyone. My dad tried to fix it many times over the years, but eventually, he just gave up. He knew he couldn't change their minds. I'm sure there's a backstory to all this, but no one ever explained it to me, and honestly, I never had the courage to ask my mom what went wrong. All I know is that my grandma has always treated me with love and warmth, and I look up to her so much. She's a strong, inspiring woman, and I'm proud to be her granddaughter. Since Dad passed, it's been 6 months, and I've continued staying in touch with Grandma. In fact, I'm the only one who has. My mom and sister have completely cut her off, and the rest of the extended family, well, they were around for a little while, but then life got busy for everyone. And it's not like she expected them to be there for her constantly, she understood. Still, it was just the two of us leaning on each other through all this. I used to visit her every weekend without fail, right up until a few weeks ago when my finals kicked in. Those just wrapped up last week. Coincidentally, my sister came home from college around the same time, right after her exams ended. Since everyone happened to be home, my grandma thought it'd be nice to have a little family weekend and invited all 3 of us over to her place. Of course, I was on board right away. I tried talking to my mom and sister, encouraging them to come too. I told them it might be a good chance for us to spend some time together like Dad would have wanted. But the way they responded, it completely threw me. What they said still plays in my head, and it honestly disgusts me. I told my mom it wouldn't be a big deal, just a simple weekend, and maybe we could try being a family again. She got irritated and snapped at me. She said that if I wanted to keep a relationship with that old hag, I was free to, but now that Dad was gone, she didn't see any reason to continue pretending. She admitted she was cutting Grandma off on purpose. My sister didn't even hesitate to agree. I couldn't believe how heartless that sounded. My grandma had never done anything but be kind to them, even when they were rude and disrespectful right in her own home. And still, she kept inviting them over, trying to include them. She wasn't asking for anything outrageous, just one weekend, one chance. Anyway, like always, I went alone. When I showed up, I could tell my grandma was disappointed that the others didn't come, but I think deep down, she had already expected that. Then something happened that completely caught me off guard. She sat me down and explained that she hadn't just invited us over for a casual visit, she had something important to share. Now that Dad was gone, she needed to decide who was going to take over the family business. While Dad was getting sicker, he started working from home because he couldn't manage being out and about anymore. And honestly, we were all so focused on his health during those last few months, none of us really had time to think about the business. We assumed someone was helping run things, or that Grandma was handling it, so we never asked. It's a family-owned company that deals in electronics. We're retailers, not manufacturers. My great-grandfather started it, then my grandfather took over, and eventually, my dad. But now, my sister's still in college, and I haven't even graduated high school yet. So yeah, clearly neither my sister nor I were in any position to take over the business just yet. We were both too young, especially me. I'm not even 18. The only person who was actually qualified to step in at that point was my mom. She's got a steady job at a bank, and honestly, I think she would have done a decent job running the company if she gave it a shot. But the thing is, she didn't even bother showing up for that weekend at Grandma's house, and because of that, Grandma had already ruled her out. She wasn't even going to consider my sister either, not just because she was still in college, but because, like I said before, she's pretty much a carbon copy of my mom in every way that matters. That basically left me. Now, I knew I wasn't ready to handle a full-on business. I had a lot of growing up and learning to do before I could manage something like that. But still, Grandma sat me down and said she wanted to pass the company on to me eventually. For now, she was still running things along with her cousin, my granduncle, but even he was getting up there in age. He was in his mid-60s and had been thinking about retiring. The only reason he hadn't done it yet was because of my dad's illness. When Dad got sick, he put everything else on hold to keep the business afloat. He figured he could hold out for maybe another couple of years, but after that, he'd be done. Grandma was determined to keep the business in the family, so she asked me if I'd be willing to step up someday. She reminded me that I had already been planning to go to business school anyway, and that my long-term goal had always been to take over the company eventually, just not this soon. We were all expecting Dad to be around for a lot longer. None of us thought we'd be making these decisions without him. Still, when she asked me if I was willing to take on the responsibility someday, I didn't even hesitate. I said yes. I knew it was what I wanted, and it felt like the right thing to do not just for me, but for my dad too. Grandma said she would manage everything for the next few years while also mentoring me. She made it clear I wouldn't be thrown into the deep end alone. And she even told me not to worry about college expenses, she was going to pay for all of it. After I said yes, the first thing Grandma did was tell my granduncle that I'd be the one taking over after I finished business school. He just had to hold the fort a little longer until I was ready. They'd both supervise me for a couple of years once I was in, but after I'd proven myself, the company would officially be mine. And I believe in myself. I really do. I know I can do this. I didn't have any doubts or second thoughts about saying yes. Looking back, I think things went sideways when I decided to call my mom and tell her what had happened. I wasn't trying to rub it in or anything, I just wanted her to realize that turning down Grandma's invitation had consequences. I guess I wanted her to understand that her pride and stubbornness had cost her something big. At first, she thought I was joking. But when she realized I was serious, she got mad, really mad. She started yelling at me, saying I had no right to gloat and that I was being petty. I tried to explain that I wasn't trying to brag, I was simply pointing out that if she'd shown a little kindness and respect, this opportunity could have gone to her. Or maybe even to my sister, who's studying finance and could have had a career handed to her once she graduated. But now, that window had closed, and Grandma wasn't about to open it again. Grandma had told me she was heartbroken that none of them showed up. After our talk, once I accepted her offer, she admitted that she had no interest in keeping ties with my mom anymore. For years, she'd tolerated my mom's attitude only because she loved my dad. But after he passed, my mom didn't even check on her, not even out of courtesy. That weekend invite? It was her final olive branch. But when my mom blew it off, that was it. She hit her limit. And honestly, I couldn't blame her. I'd seen with my own eyes how cold and rude my mom and sister were to her. If I were in Grandma's shoes, I don't think I could have kept my cool for as long as she did. So, no, I don't think I did anything wrong by telling my mom the truth, that if she hadn't been so arrogant, this amazing opportunity could have been hers. But instead, she let her pride get in the way and ended up slamming the door shut on something really special. I was supposed to go back home 2 days after that weekend visit, but it's been over a week now, and I'm still here. That's because the day after I called my mom, she and my sister showed up at Grandma's front door, literally crying, asking for forgiveness. I swear, I'm not even exaggerating. That's how they walked in, like something out of a drama. Grandma and I were both stunned to see them there. My mom tried to explain herself, saying that if she'd known the reason behind Grandma's invitation, she never would have turned it down. But wow, wrong thing to say. Instead of apologizing for years of mistreatment, she basically admitted that the only reason she was there now was because she wanted a piece of the business. She didn't even try to hide it. Her intentions were so transparent, it was honestly kind of gross. Grandma wasn't having it. She cut her off mid-sentence and told her she could leave. She said she wasn't interested in hearing anything my mom had to say unless it started with an actual apology, which it didn't. She told her flat out that she was acting pathetic and that this kind of behavior was exactly what she'd come to expect from her. She reminded her that the only reason she'd ever tolerated her arrogance was because of my dad, and that she had extended that final invite out of respect for what he would have wanted. But that chance was gone now. She told her to go cry at home instead of wasting our time, and then she slammed the door in her face. Honestly? I was proud. I was proud of my grandma for finally standing up for herself. She'd been putting up with their nonsense for way too long, and she didn't owe them anything anymore. I was in the room the whole time, just standing off to the side. I didn't say a word, not even when the door closed right in my mother's face. The reason I didn't step in during that argument between my mom and grandma was pretty simple. I honestly didn't think my mom deserved to be defended in that moment. There was nothing unfair happening, so I didn't feel any obligation to jump in and protect her. But ever since that day, both my mom and my sister have been acting like everything that went wrong is somehow my fault. They've been blaming me non-stop, saying I should have stood up for them. We've been going back and forth, arguing about it for days now. I haven't even been able to go back to our old house to grab my stuff even though I really need to, because I've made up my mind to stay with my grandmother permanently. They think I'm being selfish and unfair. They keep accusing me of turning my back on them now that I have a future that's finally taking shape. It's like they believe I was secretly waiting for this opportunity just to ditch them. They've been saying things like I'm finally showing my true colors. Honestly, it's exhausting. I'm just so frustrated, I don't even know how I'm supposed to feel anymore. I started wondering if I was in the wrong for not going back home after Grandma told me she wanted me to take over the family business. Update 1: A lot of folks who heard about all this have told me I should have cut ties with my mom and sister way earlier, and that maybe I shouldn't have made that phone call in the first place. And you know what? I kind of agree with them. That call stirred up a whole lot of trouble that I could have avoided. But it's not too late, and I've decided to go ahead and do just that, cut them off. Their behavior has been weighing on me. The truth is, they're the only family I have left besides my grandma, and for a while, I kept trying to make things work. I didn't want to just walk away. But I'm realizing now that it's a one-way street. They keep trying to make me feel guilty for things that aren't even my fault, and I'm tired of carrying that burden. I've blocked both of them, no more calls, no more texts. I'm done. They had every chance in the world to make things right, not just with me, but with my grandma, too. But they chose not to. And that's on them. If there are consequences now, they've brought those on themselves. I know deep down I'm not the one to blame here. They can spin it however they want, but I'm not buying it anymore. I've left that house behind, and even though I know my dad wouldn't have wanted things to turn out like this is the reality I'm living with. Update 2: After I blocked my mom and sister a couple of days ago, just as I expected, they didn't take it well. I figured they wouldn't approve of what I did, but honestly, I had no other option. They wouldn't stop picking fights with me, even when I was trying to be polite. Blocking them was the only way to keep my peace. Turns out they found out about it yesterday, and instead of letting it go, they decided to go public. Since they couldn't reach me directly anymore, they made a big, dramatic post online. I don't know what they were hoping to accomplish with that nonsense, but it was so over the top and so dishonest, it just made me mad. They completely twisted the story to make themselves look like the victims and me like some kind of scheming villain. They even accused me of something I couldn't have imagined in my worst nightmares. They claimed I had kept the real reason for the visit to Grandma's house a secret on purpose so they decline the invitation and miss out on inheriting the business. According to them, I knew exactly what was going on and used the tension between my mom and grandma to my advantage so I could snatch the opportunity for myself and ruin their relationship even further. It was all a blatant lie. They basically rewrote the entire story to make it seem like I manipulated the whole thing, when in reality, I was just trying to do the right thing. I haven't read any of the comments under the post, so I don't know what people are saying about it. One of my relatives actually sent me a screenshot and asked what was going on, otherwise, I wouldn't have even known they posted it. And now I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to tell them to take it down, but I'd have to unblock them first, and that's not something I want to do right now. I haven't told my grandma about any of this yet. She's still mourning the loss of her son, my dad, and I don't want to add more sadness to her plate by dragging her into this petty drama. So for now, I've just been dealing with it on my own. Update 3. After talking things over with a few of my close friends, they encouraged me to just confront my mom and sister directly. So I did. I unblocked them and sent them a message, asking what the deal was with that ridiculous post. I told them I wasn't trying to stir the pot or pick a fight, I just wanted to know why they felt the need to lie about me like that. My sister didn't respond at all, but my mom did. And what she said was just unbelievable. She claimed she had to make the post because there was some truth in it, and that people deserved to know the real me. She said I pretend to be all sweet and nice, but that I'm actually the complete opposite. And she accused me of stealing a future from them. That was it, I snapped. I completely lost my temper. I told her straight up, loud and clear, that I'd already lost a father, and I wasn't afraid of losing another parent if that's what it came down to. I told her she messed up her own life with her bitter attitude, and she didn't get to shift the blame onto me just because she didn't like the outcome. I reminded her exactly what she'd said that day, how she'd called Grandma an old hag and made it clear she wanted nothing to do with her now that Dad was gone. She had made her own bed, and now she had to lie in it. Honestly, I don't think any of what happened was my fault. When my grandma invited the three of us for that weekend stay, I had no idea she had something so important to share. If I'd known the reason behind it, I would have absolutely told my mom and sister so they could have come prepared and had a fair shot. But now, looking back, I'm honestly glad they didn't get that opportunity because they just don't deserve it. They've always taken people for granted and treated those who care about them with zero respect. Maybe this will finally be the lesson they needed. Even while I was explaining all this to my mom over the phone, she kept cutting me off, trying to argue back. It only made things worse. She wouldn't let me speak, and I just kept yelling louder and louder out of pure frustration. At some point, I must have raised my voice enough for Grandma to hear me from the other room. She came into my room, took one look at the situation, grabbed the phone out of my hand, and hung it up. Then she just calmly told me not to waste my energy on that kind of negativity and walked out. And she was right, I was getting way too upset over something that didn't even deserve my energy. I can't change my mom. I can't force her to listen or understand where I'm coming from. She's going to keep being who she is, self-centered and caught up in her own world. There's nothing I can do to fix that. So I've been trying to calm myself down and just let the emotions pass. Update 4. A lot of people have been asking me what exactly happened between my mom and my grandma. Why don't they get along? Why does my mom have such a deep dislike for her? And to be honest, I didn't have a clear answer until now. I'd been avoiding those questions because I didn't know the truth myself. But today, I finally decided to find out because this is my family too, and I deserve to know the history. There was no way I could ask my mom, especially not after the blow-up we had over the phone. So I went to the only person who might have the full story, my grandma. I asked her straight up why things had always been so tense between her and my mother. She seemed a little surprised at first, probably because it had been so long since anyone brought it up, but she didn't shy away from telling me the truth. She told me that before my parents got married, my mom had talked about quitting her job to be a stay-at-home wife. But Grandma had put her foot down and said that wasn't going to happen. There were two reasons behind it. First, my dad already had a full-time housekeeper even before he started dating my mom, so there was really no practical need for her to stay home. And second, Grandma was convinced that if my mom stopped working, she'd never go back, and that would mean she'd end up relying entirely on my dad's income. To Grandma, that didn't sit right. She told my dad she didn't want a daughter-in-law who was marrying him just for financial security. She wanted to be sure my mom was with him because of love, not money. So she made it clear that if my mom truly loved my dad, she'd stick with him while also keeping her own career. And, to her credit, my mom did go through with the marriage even though it meant giving up the idea of quitting her job. Grandma was glad about that, but it left a bitter taste for my mom. From then on, she held a grudge because she felt like Grandma had questioned her intentions and disrespected her. Now that I know all this, I'm kind of torn. I get that it must have hurt to have someone cast doubt on your love for your partner. But at the same time, I can understand where Grandma was coming from. Our family has always been financially stable, and I guess she just wanted to be cautious. So honestly, I don't know who's completely right or wrong here. But what I do know is that right now, Grandma's the one supporting me. She's the one standing by me. And that means everything. Update 5. It's been a couple of weeks since I last spoke to my mom. After that terrible phone call, we haven't talked once. From what I've heard, she eventually deleted that post she made online. Along with it, she also removed any photos of me from her social media. It's like she's pretending she only has one daughter now. And yeah, that stings. It really hurts to be erased like that. But this is the path I've chosen for myself, and I'm sticking to it. On a much happier note, something amazing happened. I got accepted into the business school I'd applied to. The one my dad always dreamed I'd attend. When I opened that email, I screamed so loud I'm surprised the neighbors didn't call to check on me. I was overwhelmed. I still am. My grandma is over the moon for me, but honestly, I don't think anyone is as proud as I am right now. It's not just about getting into a great school, it's about keeping the promise I made to my dad. I worked my butt off for months, through all the pain and chaos, and I finally did it. I'm going to the school he wanted for me. I'm going to build the future he envisioned, and someday, I'll take over the business he loved. It feels like all that hard work is finally starting to pay off, and I know it's only the beginning.